When maintaining your daily wellness rituals is important to you, the change in routine during the summer can feel daunting. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual, even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and much more. So you'll be fueled and ready for wherever life or your summer adventures take you. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. But you can try it for yourself because the variety pack includes all 6 delicious fan favorites: chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, and strawberry. So instead of worrying about sticking to your daily ritual, simplify it with Kachava. Go to kachava.com and use code FITNESS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code FITNESS.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
You know, the next round, by the way, in Buffalo, there would be the Combine. If Montreal wins, Grand Prix.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to be staying in a hotel in Windsor for those games in Montreal.
Montreal. That's right. That's right.
We've got you in the suburb.
Yes.
Oh, yes? Which suburb? The suburb of Windsor. Like Nova Scotia or Ontario? Oh, it's Ontario.
Welcome to 32 Thoughts, the podcast presented by your Canadian Toyota dealers and the 2026 Tacoma. Get yours before Red Tag days are over. Another Stanley Cup playoff edition for you. Dom, Elliotte, and Kyle, the gang is all here. Thoughtline is back this episode. You'll hear at the end of the podcast a conversation with Elliotte, Josh Doan of the Sabres, and his father, Shane. But first, before we get to all of that, Freege, one game on the calendar on Thursday night, and I was kind of thinking about that one cutaway clip from Family Guy when Peter goes skydiving.
First time?
Yeah, you?
No, not my first time.
I wonder if that's conversation can be had between the Senators and the Flyers right now. 7 straight wins to open the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Carolina Hurricanes, and I don't think any of us during the regular season were looking at the Metro Division as a juggernaut per se, but it had been clear, almost wire to wire, that the Hurricanes stood above the rest through 82 games. That hasn't changed through the playoffs. You cannot pick your opponents, but the Hurricanes have taken care of their own business on the verge of a second consecutive sweep to begin their playoff run.
It's kind of wild how, in theory, Carolina could be through to the Stanley Cup semifinals on Saturday, and Montreal and Buffalo might only be 2 games in.
Yes, their eventual opponent, one of them.
Just bananas. By the way, there's another juggernaut this round, Kyle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I want to read you a text I got that I woke up to on Thursday morning. It said, Strowman's legit, might take your job. He should quit now and transition to the panel.
Did that come from Kevin?
No, it did not, but it certainly could have.
That was,
Came from a retired player who's now in a management position. I woke up to that text on Thursday morning here in Buffalo. No, Ryan signed off after the game. He did a great job. Fantastic.
Sure,
no surprise. Anybody who knows him, no surprise that he was as good as he was. That shorthanded goal, Chatfield, what a backbreaker, Kyle. What a backbreaker.
That was where the game was in the balance and was no longer after that moment in my mind.
I agree. 1-1 game. The Flyers penalty kill, one of the worst all year. I think it's something like 3 for 30 in the playoffs, the true Achilles heel of the team. And to give up that goal at that time was just a killer.
Yeah, that was shorthanded.
Yes, absolute killer, absolute killer. And you mentioned Ottawa, first time. No, not my first time. It's almost the exact same series. I never think this is about lack of effort. I thought Ottawa competed hard. I thought Philadelphia is competing hard. It just in every game, especially with Anderson continuing to be an absolute wall back there, Carolina just always finds a way to be a little bit better. Who makes the big play at the big time? Chatfield. It's been like that for Carolina all the way through. They bend, but they don't break. They continue doing what they do. And this was another example of it on Thursday night in game number 3. And it's a Herculean task for Philadelphia. One of the things I wonder about the Flyers is this whole league right now is going to have cap room.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Philly and I see a lot of guys who really improved this year. Drysdale really improved this year. Zegras really improved this year. The Mishkov thing, that's a story for another day. We'll deal with that when and if their season ends, and we'll talk about that. But one of the things the league did this week, Kyle, was they officially announced with the Players Association the payroll range for next year. And we know that the salary cap is going to be $104 million. And all these fans are saying, oh, our team's going to have this much. And everybody's talking about how they have $11 billion in cap space. There's not enough players to spend it on, right? Some of these fans are going to be disappointed. And I'm not convinced that all of these teams are going to want to go to the cap. And especially since I don't think everyone's going to have players that are going to have access to get the kind of players that you're going to want to get to really jump up there. Like I look at Philly, I see a really hard, competitive, workman-like team. They need one more game breaker in the worst way. I just you can really see it, especially since Mishkov, and again, he didn't play a ton late in that game. His minutes, what did he play? 9 minutes, something
just
like
under 10
that.
minutes. Yep.
So there's obviously going to be a question here, but I look at the Flyers and I say, boy, Martone looks like he's a hell of a player. That looks like a 500 level home run. They need a game breaker, and that to me, like I think Ottawa has game breakers. Carolina just beat them. They just beat them. I think Philly has a lot of guys who play hard. I don't know how many true game breakers they have. That's the one, and those are the hardest guys to find.
I mean, they may have one in Martone.
It's interesting.
Like a more
Maybe
power
he
forward
could
type
be
game breaker, but
he could be. But I just watch them and I say they need one, and the easiest way to solve your problem is internal, and maybe Mishkov will turn out to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I watch them against Carolina, and they might lose anyway, but they just need one more game breaker. They're competing their heads off. I never knock the effort. They need one more game breaker there. One more.
And it's funny you say that, as they're struggling to find some results against Carolina. If you look at, the last 2 times that the Hurricanes have reached the third round and both times come up short against Florida, haven't you kind of felt the same way about them in those series?
Yeah.
Like needed another big time game breaker offensively. I know like they went out and got Ehlers this summer and he scores again on Thursday. So like they made the trade for Gensel a couple of years ago, tried to re-sign him. It didn't work out there. But they've tried to change that a little bit while not losing who they are as a team. But it's just you get later and later in the playoffs. It is a great test of where your team really does stack up against the best, because I do understand that, yeah, sometimes the top guys, they cancel each other out. And can someone from lower in your lineup be the one to make a difference at a critical moment? But really, your highest paid guys, the ones in the highest leverage situations, can they look across at their counterparts on the other side and go, I'm beating you tonight? And that can be a true driver of things. And Philadelphia is still going through their development in that sense. To not take anything away from how much of a success this has all been. So, and I also felt too, I mean, geez, nick up a couple of posts early on, behind Frederick Anderson. And is it a little different if it's a half inch one way or the other? But I suppose it's the old Grant Fuhr line. That's all I gave you if you're Anderson. But they did have chances early. It was not like it was a quiet game on that front for them. And then, the shorthanded goal, like
That was a
11
killer.
seconds into the power play, that can't happen.
See, I think even if Philly scores on those chances, Carolina proved in game 2, they fell behind 2-0 5 minutes in. They still came back and they won the game. Like, Carolina is like a steamroller right now. Even when things go badly, they don't break down. They don't give up. They continue to just come at you. And, they're a machine. They're just an absolute machine. It was interesting. Your Campbell River buddy got the penalty.
Yes, he sure did.
See, I almost wonder if some kind of warning went out because, like we said on the last pod, I heard the league was unhappy about Quenneville's reaction to that missed icing in game 1, which I think is crazy. Like, in that moment, I don't know how anybody could expect a coach not to react in that way, but there is something about Brind'Amour that really drives the league crazy sometimes. He is definitely, it's funny that, all the coaches, they kind of say, okay, they know when everybody, the league's getting mad when Brind'Amour starts getting hammered with stuff because he's always the guy they go to first. So,
the easy target.
so when Brind'Amour gets that penalty, that's a sign to all the other coaches that the league's had enough.
And again, speaks to the respect that he still has of that group because that put him, down 5-on-3
5 on
briefly,
3.
and they went out and killed the penalty for him.
Yeah.
They didn't let that be
Yep.
a turning point in the game. So, second series in a row, a hit from Taylor Hall has sparked debate. This one on Travis Sanheim, initially called a major, withdrawn to 2. What was your view on it? Because I've kind of gone back and forth. Like, there's one replay that tells a story that would support Taylor Hall's argument, but it was a violent collision, no doubt.
Yeah, it was. The thing is, Sanheim's falling, right? And Kyle, one of the rules is, does the person who get hit, does their body materially change position? And Sanheim's does. Now, you can make the argument if you want that Hall should have pulled up. I think these guys are going hard, and it's hard to say just pull up when you see that happen. I didn't have a problem with the minor penalty, but I knew once I saw that Sanheim was falling that there was a good chance the major was going to be taken away.
Yeah, the one replay where if a guy and Kevin Bieksa makes a great point on the intermission. Like, there's no sense trying to crawl into Taylor Hall's mind there and parse what he may be thinking in the moment. And of course, replay really doesn't do it justice because it all happens much faster than that. But you could see like where a player may be really trying to finish a hit and it's the forearm going across. But that was not the case. Like, that was his two hands coming out, trying to avoid Sanheim's head and brace himself up against the boards to try to minimize it a little bit. I think that the 2 minutes was the right call there. But I can appreciate the sensitivity from the Flyers standpoint too. It's just been a frustrating series for them all around. And you saw in the last
Yep.
couple of minutes when things got a little ugly, told you everything you needed to know.
I'll say this, the Flyers play hard, but Carolina, they're just on a run right now. It's going to take a lot to stop them. A lot in the East. A lot.
And the 85 Oilers, and I believe that Oilers team will come up a little later on in the podcast too. Stay tuned for that. But they were the last team to start a playoffs 8-0. Now, that was back when the first round was a best of 5, not a best of 7. I believe these Hurricanes trying to be the first to go 4-0 sweep, 4-0 sweep to begin the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they'll have a chance to do that on Saturday in Philadelphia. Okay, so just a one game on Thursday. We'll get to the other series later on in the show after the thought line. For now, let's get to the Final Five, which is presented by your Canadian Toyota dealers. So, Elliotte, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs have been in the headlines this week with Chayka and Sandin being hired. They win the draft lottery. Now, as Chayka alluded to in his introductory press conference, the meeting with head coach Craig Berube. Sounds like that's coming this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend or it's going to be next week, but it's coming soon. There's no question about that. And it might be not just like a 1-day thing or a 1-hour thing. It sounds like there's a lot to talk about. I don't want to, I know there's been a lot of handicapping this. I think the one thing is that I remember when John Ferguson got the Leaf job, he was asked about Doug Gilmour, and Doug Gilmour had been on the roster, and he was asked, "Are you going to bring back Gilmour?" And he said, "No, I don't think we're going to do that." And the first day headlines were Ferguson, "We're not bringing back Gilmour," and it was just bad. Like, it was a really tough way for Fergie to start his Toronto tenure, and I just think that there was no way Chayka or Sandin or even Pelly were going to start this off by disrespecting Berube in any way until they'd really had a chance to have a meeting with them. Now, I've had some conversations with some of the people who had interviews, and they said that the Leafs were very respectful to Berube, but they didn't really take a position on should he be back. So Sandin and Chayka clearly have an opportunity here to decide what they want to do. It was clear that Pelly liked Berube, but he didn't say you have to keep him. So I don't want to handicap this one because I think these guys bent over backward so as not to tip their hand before they really had a chance to talk to him. I think this thing, I mean, the data, we're all talking about data centric here. The data, Kyle, said that the Maple Leafs were a very poor team last year. But I think they're going to give Berube an opportunity to talk about why he felt that was, how he felt he can fix it, and then we'll see how the positions align. So I'm not giving a prediction. I want to wait to see a little bit more about how I hear this meeting goes. And then at some point after they meet with Berube, I expect them to start discussing or reaching out to Austin Matthews about, let's have some more serious conversations about what you're thinking. I had heard kind of over the last week or two that Matthews might decide to wait until around July, see what the Leafs do with the draft or free agency before making a decision. But if you're the Maple Leafs and the new regime, it makes no sense to wait that long to get an idea of what he's thinking. You might as well start as quickly as possible. Look, they had a big lottery win this week. They're probably going to want to hear what even though he's probably not seen much of the players, they kind of know the generalities, what position they play, what skill set they are, what the team needs. And I'm sure they'll give him an idea of what that all means and what he might prefer. So I think you're going to see some conversations over the next couple of weeks that could shape some of the teams. Now, one other thing I heard that doesn't necessarily tie into the Maple Leafs but could is, obviously Toronto hasn't made any other changes to their front office. We'll see what they decide to do. They said they were going to go in with an open mind. I had heard there was a chance, and this is always dicey because when Kyle Dubas left Toronto, he was allowed to take Jason Spezza with him. And then the Maple Leafs basically said, we're not letting you take a whole bunch of guys with you from Toronto to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure Spezza was the only one or there was one more, but there was a limit. The Maple Leafs said if you want to take one or two, you can. You can't take like 5. Now, Florida, Sonny Meta just left there to go to New Jersey, and he let go of a couple of people with the Devils. One of the people I'm curious to see if Meta will try to add is Brian McCabe. Brian McCabe, the former Maple Leaf defenseman, has a really good reputation for player development. Mackenzie Weegar is one of the guys that has credited McCabe in the past for really helping him become the player he's become. But I've also kind of wondered if for any reason, if Toronto makes any changes, if Sundin would vouch for him too in a player development role. So I'm curious about that because I heard there could be some, depending on what Meta's allowed to do, I heard McCabe could be on his radar. The other guy I heard could be on Sonny Meta's radar is a guy by the name of Braden Birch. Now, Birch his official position is Director of Hockey Operations and Salary Cap Management. He played hockey. He was drafted actually by the Blackhawks in 2008, and then he went overseas. He's kind of been around hockey all his life. And when we were kind of talking to Kyle about how some of these teams felt that some of the people they were interviewing were too siloed and didn't really have a lot of experience in a number of different areas. One of the future candidates, because I don't think he's ready yet, that a few people reached out to me about was Birch, and they wonder if he's going to end up being Sonny Meta's right-hand guy with the Devils. So just a couple of names I wanted to point out there.
That's good. And it seems like, though, I'm sure Bill Zito was fearing someday this day would come. It's kind of arriving now where you have enough success, the vultures start circling, going, all right, who can we pry away? And there was the tip of the iceberg of Meta going to New Jersey, and now more names being bandied about here for possible promotions and new opportunities elsewhere after a great run in Florida for a number of names. Interesting.
Yeah, Florida's got a big front office. They got a lot of people there. They still have Roberto Luongo. They still have Paul Kropelka. They still have Paul Fenton. They still have Rick Dudley. They still have Brett Peterson. Zito's got a big front office there. But someone pointed out the McCabe thing to me, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely it is, especially now with the Sundin factor. Toronto becoming an option in a way that maybe hadn't have been thought about before. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that there. So Toronto continuing their process. Vancouver, are we getting close here in terms of when they're going to make a decision? Do you have a new read? Evan Gold is a name that was out there when the Toronto search was going on, and now it's surfacing out in Vancouver. What's the latest with the Canucks?
Well, Providence got knocked out of the AHL playoffs on Thursday night after a tremendous regular season. So Evan Gold, who is definitely on their radar and I believe was in there this week to be interviewed, he's done his responsibilities. The only other thing I'm still waiting to figure out here is what they're doing with Scott White. Are they waiting to interview him in person? I don't have clarity on what they asked for permission to speak to him. That's for sure. But I don't know exactly what they decided to do in terms of, do they bring him there or do they just do it by Zoom? How are they handling it? That's the one thing I'm not sure of as we record this pod. I'm still waiting for clarity on what they're doing with him. But Gold is, I heard all the noise in Vancouver today. I don't have reason to believe anybody's wrong. I believe he was there this week, and also his team is now out. So if it is going to heat up around him, it's really going to start to heat up around him now. But I'm still waiting for clarity on White.
Is Ryan Johnson still in the mix?
He's still in the mix, but I don't know what to make of this. If they're going to hire Evan Gold, who has a really bright reputation, it would seem that Johnson's really being passed over. It's just, the whole thing is a little bit strange to me. They extended his contract. They said, you're here and you're not going anywhere else. And now if it is Evan Gold, they're basically passing him over for somebody with a similar skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But if that was the case, it wouldn't be good for Johnson.
No. And just another strange handling of a situation in Vancouver. Yeah, that's a bizarre one.
The only thing I would just say, Kyle, is that I hope that they wouldn't pass over him simply because he's tied to the regime that they're starting to move out. I don't ever think that's a good reason. If you don't think the guy can do the job, that's one thing. But I don't like the idea of, okay, he was with Rutherford, he was with Alvin. Alvin's out, Rutherford is moving to the advisory role. We just want to make the fresh change. I don't agree with that. I would just wonder why it's gone from, boy, we think super highly of this person a year ago, to this. It is a little unusual.
No question. Is there anything new on Nashville while we're here?
Yeah, when it comes to Nashville, Kyle, another unusual search.
Really?
Yeah, we've been saying that a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. It's kind of an interesting time that we've talked about. Like, one cohort of people is kind of being phased out. And I don't mean to pick on him specifically, but I'll use it as an example of that group of people. Like Mark Bergevin, for example. I would have thought that Bergevin would be a candidate in a couple more of these situations, but him and his generation or cohort or group of people, they're not really serious contenders for these jobs right now. And they're looking at the next generation, Nashville and others. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It's never wrong to search for fresh ideas. And I think they've interviewed a number of people, and some of these teams have interviewed a number of people that they really think are up and coming, but aren't convinced they're ready yet. Or in some cases, they're really good at one thing, maybe two things, but they've been siloed and not enough things that you need to run a team. And so I think Toronto felt that. I think Vancouver, and some of the reports out in Vancouver, Kyle, are that they are still deciding if they're going to hire one or two people, which would seem to indicate that they feel that way a little bit too. Nashville, I think, prefers to hire one person, and they made it very clear they want somebody who either ran an NHL or an AHL team for at least a year. So that matters for them too. But that's what I think. Like, I still wonder if Nashville is waiting to speak to somebody who either just finished competing or is now competing, because it doesn't exactly make sense what's going on there. But I do think that all these teams, New Jersey knew Sonny Mehta, they're like, we're in with him. But I think a number of these other teams are like, oh, these people are pretty good we've spoken to, but maybe we'd want them to be proficient in a tiny bit more. And I definitely think that's been a thing.
And I guess when you look back now, Elliotte, I mean, and it's not the same in every case, but for a long while, as you alluded to, there was a pool of options that many different teams continued to pick from as their general manager title holder evolved over time. And you think about within that time period, how much the league, the job, the scope of the organization, the value of the franchise changed, and all the different things that you're responsible for as a general manager. So you continue to hire the same type of person. Meanwhile, now you've spanned out your executive team and you've got people in that are, you're doing salary cap stuff, you're doing contract negotiation stuff. And now you want to look for the next wave, as you say. But the role as general manager has changed so much. And yeah, it's almost like you're caught in between of trying to find the next guy, but or woman, and they don't have the same type of experience because so many of them have been just on one track minds in terms of their role. It's an interesting one where we're at now.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a thing. You know, the next round, by the way, in Buffalo, there would be the combine. If Montreal wins, Grand Prix.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to be staying in a hotel in Windsor for those games in Montreal.
Montreal. That's right. That's right.
We've got you in the suburb.
Yes.
Oh, yes? Which suburb? The suburb of Windsor. Like Nova Scotia or Ontario? Oh, it's Ontario.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be being billeted by the Newhook family in Newfoundland. Yeah. That is tis the season. What are you gonna do? So right. Teams are trying to find that next wave, that next new age general manager. And naturally, that pursuit is always going on in coaching too. Are you hearing any names that whether they're working in the NHL or otherwise, that their stock could be rising here?
Just that, we've talked a little bit about Manny Malhotra and we've talked a little bit about Misha Donskov. Someone else just mentioned to me, and right now there's nothing open, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
But somebody else mentioned to me that if someone's looking for kind of a fresh-ish face, easy for me to say, they mentioned Alex Tanguay from Detroit. That was a name that got popped into my head. Just keep an eye on him. And I said, all right, I will keep an eye.
All right, good stuff. That was the final thought presented by your Canadian Toyota dealers. We'll take our first break, come back with a thought line and more on the Stanley Cup playoffs and our interview segment still to come on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. It continues after this.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Okay, here we go. This is the segment we like to call the Thoughtline. Elliotte, I've witnessed you be a very busy and popular man already here in Buffalo. Surely you have some shout-outs or hellos you would like to make before we go any further.
Yes. First, there were some complaints about the Wings story.
And what exactly about the Wings story?
No, including one individual who is a National Hockey League employee who wrote, "Ordering honey garlic wings in Buffalo is a crime, like asking for ranch instead of blue cheese. I'm surprised you got out alive." Well, and let me just say, this isn't the only person who complained about the honey garlic. Even Brian Giunta, talking to you, brought up the honey garlic.
Yes, actually, yes. He, loyal listener.
If I can make any situation worse for the pure entertainment of the pod, I am happy to do so. So let me just say to this individual and everyone else, I did ask for ranch instead of blue cheese. I am not a blue cheese guy. I don't like it.
Now, I can't rip you for that because I do the same. I don't order honey garlic, but I do ask for ranch.
Okay, I'll be going out for wings again, I believe, and I will order appropriately next time. Not my greatest night, I will say. I do have some shout-outs from some people I met. I met a retired transit police officer. He actually retired just last month. His name was Douglas. Really nice guy. We were chatting a little bit. He just retired, as I mentioned. He bought his dream car. He showed it to me. We had it parked out front of the place where I met him. Really nice guy. Also, there was a Josh, Norm Roser, I think his name was. I believe, Kyle, you and I walked into him on the street, walking over to the Canadiens availability the day of Game 1.
Yes.
And there was also a Don, a Ryan, and I couldn't remember the name of the other person, unfortunately. And I also wanted to thank Kelly and Ashley, who let me borrow their beer saber to go on air with Dave postgame in game number 1. That was the one that Sportsnet used in their social. They said you can't keep it. Like, they were legitimately concerned I was going to attempt to steal it, and I may have.
Yeah,
but they allowed me to use it as a prop. Very valid concern. But lots of great people in Buffalo, not surprisingly.
Now, the image I saw, the Sabre was empty. At the start of your hit, was it at least partially full? Or was it empty the whole time?
No, it was empty. Kelly and Ashley had made sure that there was nothing left to waste for their game enjoyment.
Well done. I feel I need to update the listeners on the ongoing Frege circus here in Buffalo, because it did not stop at the wing sauce. The honey garlic wing sauce all over himself a mere hours upon arrival in the city. So Wednesday morning, him and I, Elliotte, we drive over to the rink for the skate, and then we drive back to the hotel afterwards. And then when I go to leave for the rink later in the afternoon, I start driving and realize you left your credential in the car.
Yes.
So now I've got to go drop that off at security to make sure you can still get into the building to work that night.
Yes.
Then I realize, because my position is right next to where you and Dave are, we both realized that you had a hole in your suit jacket. Thankfully, I don't think it came across on camera, but only further added to the disaster makeup that Elliotte has been portraying ever since crossing the border at Niagara Falls. And then the real topper was Thursday morning. Elliotte, I could only describe, was in the state of like the dad from 50 Below Zero, the Robert Munch book. He comes walking down for breakfast. I'm sitting at a table with Rick Houston, one of our camera operators here covering the series. He says good morning to us, walks past. There's a table 2 down with a gentleman sitting there, and Elliotte thinks it was David Amber. All I'm going to say is this man could not have looked any less like David Amber. And I watched it all. I saw you like lean in, and then you were like, "Oh, sorry about that." And I just was like, did he think that was Dave? It was an outstanding start to the day.
I don't know what was going on with me on Wednesday morning. I really don't.
It's so good. Anyway, I
I
appreciate
literally
you.
looked. I literally walked by the guy. It's like, oh, that's Dave. And I went and I turned and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And he looks at me and I'm like, oh, sir, sorry. I thought you were someone else.
Oh man, that was a great start.
All I will
day.
say in my defense is that for the suit with the holes in it, I don't know what happened there. I put it on and I noticed it. I don't know if moths had gotten to it or what had happened, but it's a real shame because that's a beautiful suit.
Yes, it is. And I hope you can still, find ways to carry on with the holes, or maybe there's a patch job that they can do back at HQ because it is a beauty. Okay.
Oh, by the
Go
way,
ahead.
before we do this, you gave my credential to a young man who working at the Sabres security desk. I think his name was Liam.
Oh, yeah.
And what did you tell him to say to me?
Well, first I said, act like you have no idea what he's talking about when he asked for the credential. But when I explained the situation, they're like, oh, that's Stank Friedman again. Forgot his credential. I said, yes. I said, you should refer to him as that. And did they?
Yes.
Oh,
and there's been a little bit of it. There have been I would say probably about 10 social media posts referring to me as Stank, although Liam was the only one who did it in person.
Nice. Well done,
yes.
Liam.
So you got some traction on this, Kyle. Nice job.
Okay.
I'm still laughing at getting Dave confused for that other guy. It is true. I don't know what planet I was on Thursday morning.
My POV was incredible watching that all unfold. It was so good. Okay, got a couple submissions here to get to today, and we begin with Shane in Saskatoon. If all the information is correct on the Maple Leafs being able to choose who gets the 2027 top 10 unprotected pick between the Flyers and the Bruins, could this actually be a good thing for Toronto? For example, say it's top 3 overall. Could they use that as leverage and create a bidding war between Boston and Philly to give up an asset to ensure the Leafs choose them? I feel like they could squeeze a prospect, a second, a late first out of one of these teams. So in theory, they could trade the pick again. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy, Shane, and that's why there is let's just say there's a tug of war going on here. Philadelphia has appealed the current interpretation. I don't know if I would say appeal is the proper word in a legal sense, because I don't know if there's anything formal here. But Philadelphia has asked the league for clarification on this to avoid that exact scenario. Basically, the easiest way to say this is that the league is looking into it. And I have sent a note into the league and I have not received an answer. And my history with the NHL is that if they're ready to say something, they will respond. And if they are not ready to say anything, they won't respond. And it sounds like they're still working their way through this. Now, the Flyers have basically asked that they be awarded the 2027 pick. But at this point in time, there is still no absolute clarity. So we're kind of waiting for the league to decide on what's going to happen here. They have acknowledged that there is a conversation going on. They have acknowledged that the Flyers have asked for a certain interpretation, but at this point in time, it's not set.
Okay. Good question, Shane. And that story's not over yet.
No, it's not.
Okay, Ben in New York City. Hi, Kyle and Elliotte. Currently watching Game 1 between the Sabres and Habs here in the States on TNT with Brendan Burke on the call. I see Darren Pang is between the benches with Shane Knighty up top. But isn't the game also broadcast in Canada? How does the NHL decide which network or country gets to have an analyst in that tight space between the benches? Is it based on which nation is the host city? So in this case, in Buffalo, Panger would get the call, but in Montreal, would Craig Simpson get that spot? So, in theory, yes. Where the game is held, either in the United States, in Canada, first right of refusal goes to either the American national broadcaster or the Canadian one. So in this case here in Buffalo, TNT, which was doing the game one on Wednesday night, they had first priority to say, do we want to put a commentator between the benches? Of course, you're right. Darren Pang was down there. He wants to be between the benches. Now, for our crew, it's kind of a moot point because Craig Simpson has no desire to be between the benches. He likes working the game from up top in the booth. That's where his preferred vantage point is. So we'd never be in a scenario, so long as he's working games, where we would be requesting to have him between the benches. But in theory, when we go back to Montreal, if we wanted to have a commentator between the benches, we would have priority as the Canadian national broadcaster for the game. Now, as you know, some buildings are different. The space between the benches in some are wider than others. Sometimes there's room to have both the U.S. and Canadian guy. We've seen that in the past. Sometimes there's not enough space. In a case like Montreal and Edmonton too, Elliotte, as you know, there really isn't a between the benches. It's just an extension of the home bench. You see Louis DeBrusk down there in Edmonton all the time, Renaud Lavoie or Marc Denis in Montreal. So that comes into play. However, for us, a big thing, if we're not going to have a commentator there between the benches, if there is space, because priority is commentator first, and then once all those requests are satisfied, if there is room, we will try to put a handheld camera in that spot. And as you know, there could be some great vantage points on a replay, seeing faces on the bench up close, or if there's scrums in between the benches, that can be a really great perspective to have. So that's become, certainly in the playoffs, a priority for Sportsnet, that if there's a situation where, again, Craig Simpson as an example, doesn't want to be between the benches, no problem, but we would love to have a camera there if there is room.
Nice. Now, the only thing I wanted to correct was I thought in the United States, it is U.S. national, then us. And in Canada, it is us and then U.S. national. But I thought in Montreal, it was the French rights holder first and then us.
So the key there is whether it's us or TVA, which one is putting out the play-by-play camera.
Okay.
That's how that is determined. I believe it was the case last round, and I believe it's the case this round. We are putting out our own play-by-play camera. So in theory, we would have first choice, but again, it becomes a moot point for our crew. Craig Simpson goes up top. We're still wishing Renaud Lavoie all the best, but when he does get back, he would be the man in between the benches there in Montreal. But I think during the regular season, there are instances where it's TVA that would be the one providing the play-by-play camera, and then they would be considered the primary broadcast there and would have first dibs. Okay. It's a great point you make.
Excellent. Good work.
Good question, Ben. One final one here. Stephen from St. John's, Newfoundland.
Nice.
Good evening, Kyle and Dom. My name is Stephen, and I'm writing.
Wait. What? Didn't even say good evening to me. Just said good evening to the two of you guys.
So he goes, good evening, Kyle and Dom. My name is Stephen, and I'm writing from St. John's, Newfoundland. And hi, Elliotte.
Nice.
As I sit here enjoying a beverage, watching the Avs and Wild game, I'm wondering, what is the most goals ever scored in a series? After Sunday's 15-goal game, and now I see 2 goals on the first 2 shots in this one, I can't help but wonder if it goes the distance, will we see 100 goals? Keep up the great work, and just nice. So you know, there are not any raccoons in Newfoundland if you're looking for a nice spot to retire. Sincerely, a disgruntled Bruins fan who is not happy about the draft lottery.
I have to say this. I would move there if there were no raccoons. I would at least consider it. Most goals in a playoff series?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say this. If it was a 5-gamer, I would pick that famous Edmonton Kings one with the miracle on Manchester. But there's no way there isn't a 7-gamer that goes longer than that.
Yes. And actually, the top 3 for this answer were all 6-game series.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't even see a 7th.
No, off the top of my head. I mean, look, if I was to guess anything, Kyle, I would guess something that would have the 80s Oilers in it, but that's purely a guess.
Yep. And it led you to the right place. So,
oh, really?
Yes.
I couldn't pick a series, though. I
Fair.
wouldn't know. Yeah.
Fair. 1985 conference finals, they knocked out Chicago in 6 games. There was 69 goals scored in that series. That is the record.
So they averaged 11 and a half goals a game in a series, the two teams? Wow.
Yes. So the only thing close recently, so in the bubble, Dallas, Colorado, and also New York, Pittsburgh in the 2022 playoffs, those were both 7-gamers. Those both had 57 total. That's tied for 6th all time.
Jeez.
69 is the target. Now, Game 2, Colorado, Minnesota wasn't the same as Game 1, although it was tracking that way when you sent this in, Stephen.
Yeah, they slowed down after that.
Yes, yeah. So they still got a long ways to go to get those totals. 69 in 6 games. Crazy.
So I went looking for that Kings-Oilers series, and according to what I see, it's 50 goals is like 35th all time. But it is also, I think, the only 5-game series that's in the top 50. So I was onto something there, at least.
Yeah, that was...
One of those games
Actually,
was 10-8, I remember. It was 10-8.
No, when they met in 87, because that wasn't the Miracle on Manchester year, right? That was later.
No, the Miracle on Manchester was 1982.
Yeah, sorry, I meant earlier.
And one of those games, the first game of that series, I think, was a 10-8 game.
Right. So when they met again in 87, Edmonton won in 5. That was 52 goals total. So yeah, that's the only 5-game series within the top 25 all time. There you go. You're on the right path, though. I'll give you credit for that. All right, that'll do it for another edition of the Thoughtline. 1-833-311-3232 if you'd like to call and leave a voicemail, or email us at 32thoughts@sportsnet.ca. We've got Elliott's conversation with Josh and Shane Doan still to come. We'll also look at the other series that played out Wednesday night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. All of that still to come on 32 Thoughts, the podcast.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is sharing the message that connection is crucial because good relationships are an essential and sometimes overlooked component of mental well-being. If your relationships could use some strengthening, a licensed therapist from Talkspace can help. Therapy can help you communicate better with loved ones, repair conflicts, and understand how to address loneliness and build community. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a therapist within 2 days. You'll meet with your therapist online on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make personal connections a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Okay, so Colorado, Minnesota, we haven't played since our last episode dropped on Wednesday. They're in the middle of a boatload of days off. Game 3 of that one goes Saturday, so we will talk about that on Monday's episode, Elliotte.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we start with a series that we are at in Buffalo here? The Sabres and the Canadiens, one game in there. Buffalo wins game 1 by a score of 4-2. This is a different opponent for Montreal than they just spent going head-to-head with for 7 games in Tampa. But the Sabres are for real. Zach Benson is for real.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Lyon doesn't look like he's dropping off just yet. Rasmus Dahlin's a finalist for the Norris Trophy. Congratulations to him. What did you think about how this series started at the KeyBank Center?
I think that is a game. Game 1 of that series is one that if you're Buffalo, I think you have to win it. If you're serious about winning the series, and the Sabres sure are, you've had a bit more time to relax. You went 6 games. Montreal went 7. They have a shorter turnaround time. They're the ones that have to travel into your city. They're riding that emotional wave a bit closer to game 1, game time. I think if you're the Sabres, you're waiting for them at home. You've had a few more days to rest. You have to jump on them, and I thought they did. In the playoffs, you don't have to apologize for how you win, and you just have to win. And Montreal wasn't sharp. They weren't themselves. They took a penalty 8 seconds in. Hudson tripped over the kick plate of the boards. I'm betting he's not going to do that the rest of the series, and Buffalo took advantage. That's what good teams do. I didn't think Montreal was sharp. I think they lacked the emotion that they showed at more points in that Tampa series. And I thought they paid for it. Dobish gave up maybe his worst goal of the playoffs. That Greenway goal was, even though there was a screen, it was kind of ugly. It went through him. I just don't think Montreal is going to be like that again in the series. That to me is that's the kind of game where if Buffalo has to take it, and they did it. I think both teams are going to be a lot better in game 2. Like you heard Lindy Ruff, he wasn't saying we were great or anything like that. What was his line? We have to be more on top of them. Mm-hmm. I think when you win an opening game and the other team doesn't play great, you're spending the next 2 days or day and a half preparing your team for they're going to be a lot better than that. They're going to be much better than that. And that's exactly the mode Ruff was in. I just didn't think Montreal was very good, and I don't think that'll happen again. You talked to him at the end of the game, Kyle, but the Benson stuff is very real. Like for a long time, we remember what big heroes Rob Ray, Brad May, and Matthew Barnaby were in Buffalo, and we aren't going to see guys with 300 penalty minutes in a year anymore. Like those days are just over. But that doesn't mean you aren't going to have guys who play an edgy, nasty game, and fans aren't going to love them just as much. And you can really feel the love affair growing in Buffalo between Benson and the Sabres fans.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. He got a huge pop when he got called out for the first star at the end of the game. I give credit, like Alex Tuck saw this coming. Like even before he knew whether it was going to be Montreal or Tampa, he felt this was going to be a series where there was going to be more room for us kind of in the middle of the ice to create some things off the rush. And that's where they did a lot of their damage. And Montreal just is going to have to do some adjusting to now. Because we saw it, obviously the one was the tough break on Hudson there, but even the Greenway goal, coming off the rush, and like that's been when the Sabres are playing a game that they want to play, between that and how they got rolling around in the offensive zone for a few stretches there in the second period, more so than at any other point. That was Sabres hockey that led them, in a lot of ways to first in the division this year. And now, Montreal, it's their turn to adjust. But I think there's still a very compelling series to be had here. And now, as St. Louis said after the game on Wednesday, like it's kind of the first time in 2 weeks that our top guys actually had a bit of space with the puck on their stick after how tight it was in Tampa. And so it was interesting. They had an optional practice here on Thursday. The last two guys on the ice were Hudson and Caulfield. The Hudson one, I'm not surprised by because that's his sanctuary. He's always on the ice and usually a lot longer than most. But Caulfield putting in extra work, still stuck on just the one goal. You could tell he was struggling to find whatever kind of rhythm he's looking for there in game number one. That's where my mind's kind of going of, as a team, of course, you got to respond after losing the opening game. But for a guy who scored 51 in the regular season, all right, here's your moment to try to break through.
I think this series is going to be a lot better. And I think that what the Buffalo players said to you, Kyle, before game one is true. There's going to be more room out here than there was for both the Sabres against Boston and the Canadiens against the Lightning. These two teams just play differently. They won't lock it down. They will attack and they will take chances. And my bet is that game one is a complete dud compared to the rest of this series.
Ooh, I like that bet. Okay. Meanwhile, out in Vegas, that felt like an important one for Anaheim. Beyond the obvious of winning the game, you even the series going back home, but a game where they controlled play, but unlike other games against Edmonton where the goals were adding up for them, that was a night you had to stay patient and trust that it was going to come and don't get out of what was making you successful. And that was a young team that stuck with it and full value, nearly a shutout for Lukas Dostal, but full value going into Vegas and earning a split there. This young Anaheim team continues to impress a lot of us here, Friedge.
Yeah, I have to say that this is a different series for Anaheim. We've all talked about how Anaheim was full value for beating the Oilers and they deserve credit and nobody should take anything away from them. But I think we also felt that this series was going to be very different. And they've shown that they can adapt to two opponents who don't really have a lot in common in terms of the way they play. Edmonton, super fast team up and down the ice. They beat them. The Knights, more structured, definitely about being in the proper position and trying to exploit your weaknesses. And I think Anaheim's played two games really well. If you're the Ducks, you're probably sitting there saying, boy, I wish we were up 2-0 instead of 1-1. Duh, that's obvious. But there's nothing I saw from the first two games for Anaheim that make me concerned that they can't win this series. Dostal has settled down, and so is hard for Vegas. He started to play a lot better going back to the back end of the Mammoth series. But I like the way that they have defended Vegas so far. And that's, I think, the one thing. I didn't watch the beginning of game number 2 in this series because we were finishing our work here in Buffalo. But I saw a team that had a good defensive game plan for Vegas and was prepared to execute it. So I always believe in Vegas. It takes a lot for me to think that they're not going to win a series. The only reason I was really concerned about them earlier this year and at the start of the playoffs against Mammoth is they were getting at no saves. That's a terrible Achilles heel to have, and not even a team like Vegas can overcome it. But now that Hart has solidified a bit, I think they're a very dangerous team. I just watched Anaheim in the first two games of this series. They took advantage of an Edmonton team that had a lot of holes and a lot of weaknesses. And it looks to me like they understand that this is going to be a different challenge. This is going to be more of a playoff challenge. And the first two games, they've been up to it. The thing that they have to realize is that Vegas tends to get better as the series get longer. That definitely happened in round number 1. So you know that the Golden Knights are going to go to a different level here. And so Anaheim has to handle that. The other thing, too, is, William Karlsson came back. I tend to think that players, they get better the more games they play, especially usually there's a bit of a jolt in game number 1, but then it hits you and then you recover. Karlsson and Marner played a little bit at the end of game 2. I want to see if that's what Tortorella goes to in game number 3. I think Karlsson will get better as the series goes on, and I think the Golden Knights will too.
Ryan Poehling has become a really good quote in terms of understanding a player's mindset and just how they're viewing the game. And he said after the fact that, the way to beat Vegas is just outpacing them. And he's not necessarily talking about only how fast they skate, but just the way they process the game and how they go about it that way. And it's been working for Anaheim. I just wonder, how long until do we get the John Tortorella, we're ready to play press conference again? Does he go down that road again? Because it set the right tone and kind of turned their series around.
He does it 26 times a year, so you're going to get it again for sure.
Yes.
The minute-long press conferences, it's not a one-time occasion. It's a multi-time occasion.
Yes. By the way, I don't know if you saw, when Mark Stone busted the shutout with 6 seconds left, he almost felt bad about it all.
I forgot to mention this, but every time I see that, I think of the late Pat Quinn. I covered a game once when Quinn was coaching the Leafs, and it was one of Glenn Healy's rare starts when Curtis Joseph was standing on his head in Toronto, and he had a shutout going in the last minute against Vancouver. And he lost it. The Leafs ended up winning that game 4-1. And Quinn came out and he was furious. The first thing he said was, "I thought these guys liked Healy." He was so angry that they blew the shutout in the last minute. And I'll always remember that. He's like, that was like a sin to Pat Quinn, losing a goalie shutout late like that. I didn't realize how long it's been since Anaheim had a shutout.
Yeah. It's been what? Yeah, almost 2 years?
Yeah.
Regular season and playoff, of course.
But I'm glad you reminded me of that because they played an unbelievable game that night in beating the Canucks, and Quinn was seething when he came to meet with the media. He totally forgot they played the best 59 minutes because they blew Healy's shutout.
That's good. Coach who understands the value of those little moments there. That's an awesome story. Okay, you want to get to the interview?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So Josh Doan, you may have heard on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, earlier this season. He opened the scoring in game number 1 against Montreal. Elliotte, earlier in the playoffs, had a chance to sit down with not only him, but his father, Shane Doan, as well, who's got his own playoff experience and experience for the game in his own right. So the Doans and Friedge on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Let's listen.
So many places to start. I think as a father, I'll start with the dad. And Josh, you knew he was good, but this has been sort of like the breakout year. What's it been like watching it?
You know what? It's been so fun. And yeah, without doubt, you view your son as a good hockey player, and but to see him have the impact that he's had and just who he is as a guy, that's probably been the most fun, to see the joy that he's had and to see him scoring obviously makes him a little happier than not scoring. So that's made it fun.
So Josh, when you pick up your phone after a game, what's the text message look like?
It depends on the game, I think. He'll leave me alone if I don't feel good, or it's usually the same thing, just good game, or depending on how I played, depending on our biggest thing is it's not always about points or scoring. Right. So if I play well and I don't score, I'll usually hear from him just to keep it up. My mom's usually the one blowing my phone up. So she sends gifts and messages with like bangs and stuff, and go Buffalo no matter what. If we win, she's got it all dialed in.
So what is your mom's key gift? Like everybody has a gift.
She's got a couple. She's got like a charging buffalo cartoon that comes across the lot right now.
Yeah. What are you guys? How often do you and your wife watch games together?
We watched the majority of them together. She was in Toronto with me for probably most of the whole first half of the season up until the middle of January. We're there. And then she went back. And then I've been back a couple times. So we watched them back in Arizona a couple times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But it's been together, and she's a lot of fun to watch it with.
I was going to say, because you've always, when you played, you were like the charging rhino, but as a person, you've always been pretty calm publicly. What are you guys like when you're watching games together?
I'm pretty calm, I think. Hey, I'd be calmer.
I've heard from all the siblings that he's the calm one.
Yeah, I am. I get more excited about the things that I see that, like when he does something that might not work, but was the right idea. Andrea can be she's a big fan, and she's a big Josh fan. She is a Buffalo fan, but she is a Josh fan. So
the trade this summer, like how did you walk Josh through it and the shock of it and how to handle it?
I guess, well, we were talking when we heard about it, and we didn't know that he was in on it, and he was excited. Thought JJ is a good player, and he was excited to get to play with him. And then when he found out that it was going the other way,
I found out I was in the trade. So.
It was that was unique. Obviously, I'd never experienced it, and you know what? His probably his biggest strength is his love of his teammates. So he loves his teammates, and that was probably when you get traded, the biggest. The biggest thing to get over is for guys always talk about. And he had just had the experience of the World Championships, and he was saying how he was going to miss the guys in Utah, and that was going to be hard. And after the World Championships, he'd been talking about how much he loved those guys and how amazing they were. I said, you were with them for like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and you were talking like that about them. In less than 2 weeks, you'll be talking the same way about your Buffalo teammates. And it wasn't 2 weeks. It was like 5 days, 4 days. And I'm hearing about everybody and how awesome they are and how great this guy is. And he's the best player. And Sammy's amazing. And Bizey's unbelievable. And Tomer's the best. And he already knew Tomer. So it was just, in that part, it didn't really take any talking. It was just him being him. And he got excited.
What's the best advice your dad's ever given you?
There's a couple things. I think obviously the most cliche one is he really emphasizes the fun in the game, and you do get to play a sport as a living is super cool and unique, and you're creative when you're doing that, and that's when I'm playing my best is when I'm doing that. I think the main one that sticks out to me is when I'm not playing well is to trust your instincts and just go. Don't try to think the game. When you think the game, you stop moving your feet, and then you get yourself in trouble. And then I think the one that away from the game too is just to be a better person and a hockey player. I think all three of my siblings and I anything that we do, it is important to be better at being a nice person to who you're with, and then to focus on what you're doing.
What's the best thing watching your son has taught you about being a dad? And maybe all your children.
Yeah. I don't know. My wife did an amazing job. I guess like when I watch them and see all my kids, I know how much I was gone, and I do appreciate, and when I watch him and all of them, they love each other, and I guess as a dad, that's probably the thing that I'd appreciate the most is I think Josh has a genuine love for people, and that's probably the coolest part of watching him interact. Whether it's on the bench or whether it's off the ice, whether it's coming across people, whether it's on the ice, and his passion for the game, I think it kind of spills into everything. And I think all four of the kids have that. And that's probably the coolest part.
That's awesome. What does it mean to hear that from your dad?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's fun to listen to him talk. And he gets to be nice to us all.
So that leads to the question: what is the angriest Shane has ever been at you?
Oh, no. He doesn't always get angry with us. Like, we would joke as kids, and my sister Karis loves that the fact that she can tell people, like, we've all seen him mad on the ice, but there's a look that us 4 kids have gotten that no one has seen before. And it's nothing needs to be said. You're like, okay, yeah, noted, that won't be done again. And just kind of go to your room or avoid him for a couple minutes. And then he's the happiest guy alive 5 minutes later. But I don't know, I'm trying not to do anything too bad to make him that upset with me. I think we've all avoided too much consequence from him.
I need you to turn to the camera and give that.
No. I wish I could do it, because they've pointed it out to me once in a while. And I know I've seen it. I've seen it in a game or whatever at a moment or two, but I've seen it on his face a couple times in a game.
Tampa.
Yeah, when you see it, I was like, oh, and it kind of laughed, but it usually takes quite a bit. So.
What do you remember, like your first memory of your dad playing?
Yeah, it was quite a unique experience, obviously, to be 15 years old when he was done. So a lot of memories when I was in my early teens, getting to go to the rink with him and watch him play. I think going to the World Championships as a kid was always super exciting for me, and getting to watch him play there. But I'd say one of the cooler memories would be at the All-Star game in Montreal, getting to be a part of that with him, where my sister and I were on the bench when he somehow won the shootout competition.
You have to throw somehow in there.
But he did. So I guess I tip my cap to him on that. But it was just stuff like that where you're around the game and you get to experience that kind of stuff, where you get to interact with him and his teammates in those events and kind of enjoy the moment with them, where you don't realize how cool they are until you get a little bit older, and looking back at it's pretty special.
So my son's 14 and he is not remotely interested in what I do. He doesn't care, and that's fine. Like, I want him to be happy and pick his own path. I'm good. But do you remember there was a point where you realized, just how accomplished your dad was and is, and you said, I want to follow that path?
Yeah, I think growing up, I just loved hockey, and it was because obviously he did it, but then just how much fun I had playing it or with him in the backyard or garage and stuff like that. And then I was probably around 10 or 11 when you kind of realize what he did was pretty cool, and not a lot of people can do that at that level. And I don't know, there wasn't really a time where I thought I was going to be able to really perform at that level or play at that level. I think there was some tough years growing up where he obviously helped me a ton in getting now to where I am from then. But I think growing up, you don't really realize it because he is dad for the majority of your childhood. And then at some point you come to realize that it's pretty cool doing what he's doing. I mean, probably the first time they made the playoffs that I could remember as a kid was you realize how important the game is and how big it is. And it's not just like a job. It's serious to a lot of people, and it's fun. So I think that would have probably been those Detroit playoff series as a kid were the first kind of moments you realize how cool it was.
Was there a moment, Shane, where you looked at Josh and you said, my son's got a chance here?
Yeah, it probably was right at the end of his early on when he was a kid. He actually was against Dustin Wolf. He scored a goal, which is crazy because this is like back when he was like 9 or 10, or it was for the brick. It was when he was getting ready for the brick. And he came in, he made a really nice move, and Dustin Wolf stayed right with him, stopped him. And nobody had really, he made the right move and no one had really stopped him. And Dustin stopped him, and he got about 2 shifts later, he got another breakaway, came in and made a little move and took a shot, and Wolfie stopped it. And then Josh got the rebound, put it in. And for the first time I'd ever thought of I think he almost bounced it off his pad to himself. And I asked him about it after the game. And this might be show my own abilities. I was like, did you do that on purpose? Did you try to go? And he's like, well, I knew if I went there, I probably could get a rebound and I could get another chance at it. That had never crossed my mind. And the entire time I'd played hockey, And I was in the NHL for a while, and I'd never thought of it like that. And so that was when I was like, oh, he thinks the game so much better than I do. And he was like 9. But then in his first year in Chicago, at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, I thought he was in trouble. But at the end of the year, he had a game where he just, his motor kept his motor going, and now he was starting to get to where he could, if it got into a 50-50 battle, he was strong enough to win maybe a couple of those battles, and then his stick was really good. I was like, if he can improve the same as what he did from the beginning of the year to this point for next year, maybe he's got a chance. And then obviously the following year, he really improved. He improved even more, and then he kind of grew and got into his body and all that. But that was probably when I was like, okay, maybe he's got a chance.
What do you remember about your draft day?
I was in Michigan at the World Junior stuff. So I was with my mom. Obviously, she was there, but I was with a lot of the guys that I had played in Chicago with. So that was pretty cool to share that day with a lot of them, just because it was off-site and you got a chance to kind of be around guys that you had taken those steps with and people that supported you throughout the way. I think it's cool being with them. And then obviously going out to talk to my mom, and she was excited when I got drafted, and it was to Arizona. So we got a chance to talk to him on the phone pretty quickly after, which was super cool.
What do you remember about that moment? Like, just as it was, obviously you knew there was a chance it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was crazy. So the exact moment going into that day, we had quite a bit of talks about as a family whether or not that he wanted Josh to get drafted by Arizona. Like, it was, we really had kind of hinted that we didn't. But at the same time, we weren't going to, it was like, whatever is best for everybody, we'll just do. So I never got to see our list past, I saw the list, but Josh wasn't on the list up until that point because the scouts kind of discussed it. I thought what Bill and the scouts had done was an incredible job of just, whenever Josh was discussed, I was out of the room and I wasn't involved. And then the morning of the second day, they gave me a new list. They're like, hey, we'll give you a list where Josh is. And it showed that they had him, I think they had him at 19 on their list. And they're like, he's going to go early and we want you to know where we have him. And I was like, okay, I see it. And I was like, hey, if it doesn't line up, we are not moving off this list. Like, that's the way you've always done it. That's what you do. So at 36, they had, I guess I can tell now, that they had Williams, they had Shai ahead of Josh, and they had him at 18. And Detroit traded up to move ahead of Arizona and took him at 36. And so when the trade went through, they're like, they're taking, the room's all talking. They're like, I think they're taking William. And then everyone in the room turned and looked at me, and I'm like, ooh, that's lining up perfect. So they took him with the next pick, and that was pretty exciting. It was really unique for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes of knowing, like, oh my goodness, okay, all the ramifications of it are kind of running through my head, and then to get to talk to him right after was really special.
Now, did anyone in your family say to you, did you know that this was going to happen?
Yeah, nobody. It was literally a minute, and everyone asked me, and I'm like, I swear, I thought that because of the situation, and according to what the scouts were saying, that it was going to be William, and then we had 2 more picks, but everyone was telling me, like, there was no way that he gets to the second or third one. And I was, so then you're kind of like, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm happy regardless, because he's going to get picked relatively soon and I'm going to get to see. But when that trade went through, it was crazy. And so it was like, oh my gosh, it literally was, it fell back into place, and it was pretty special.
The thing I always remember too about your first, jump ahead to your first goal, was we were watching it again today before the interview. First of all, you had 2, the building was crazy, but Uncle Dan, Uncle Dan, like, that is the one that stands out as much as anything else. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it before, that he would owe me a we had some wager in the summertime about something, and I was going to play in Tucson, and we went to Abbotsford a couple times. So if I scored while he was present in the building, that he had to take his shirt off in Abbotsford, which not many people would have saw except the people in the building, and it just would have been awkward for him. And he agreed to it, but my aunt, my mom's sister, had vetoed him when I scored in Abbotsford. So she didn't want the secondhand embarrassment of being there, which is fair. But my little cousins kept him to his word, and they weren't supposed to be in Arizona for my first game. I got called up while they were in town, and I was in San Jose playing against the Barracuda, and they were like, well, now we're not going home because they're supposed to fly out that night, and they decided to stay a couple days. So over that couple days, I think he planned out that if I had scored it, he would go tarps off, in his words, and he did. So he's meant a lot, obviously, to me and my siblings, but we've been pretty close since I was super young, and he's been one of the mentors in my life that has done and kept things fun for me in the summertime and in training. So it was pretty cool that he got the opportunity to show the world what he does in the gym. But
Yeah.
I think he's adamant that he's coming here for the playoffs, and
So we could see it for
we'll see what happens then. But I think it would be pretty entertaining to see it again, or maybe get some paint on his chest for the Sabres or something.
A painted Doan Sabres jersey.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that is, like, I can't tell if you want him there or you want to get away from him. Like, he decided he's going to be with you. I can't tell how you felt.
Yeah, you know what? We were so excited, obviously, when he scored his first goal. Like, that was unbelievable. And then to get the second one, Dan and I were laughing about the first one, and I was laughing. We were just having a good time. And when the puck went in, I was like, it might have been a high stick because we were trying to decide. It didn't really matter. The shirt was off. And he was giving me and he made me feel so small. Like, I'm not
He's
little guy.
ripped.
He's huge.
He's ripped.
Yeah. And it was really cool to see. And the key to it, and I really believe him and Josh, Dan has been an unbelievable kind of role model to Josh right from like 4 years old. He's been there and has always made Josh feel so important and special. And for that to happen, there was a lot that went into it, and it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. That was a great night. We had an unbelievable night.
Thing that you're most like your dad, thing that you're least like your dad.
So I think the one that's bad for both of us is probably our phones. We're terrible. I'm
know that
bad.
feeling.
I'm bad with texts, and I feel bad. And now we would tease him as kids, like they'd all be like, "You never answer your phone," and now I'm like, "Oh boy, now I see why you are." I'm in the same boat now where I'm terrible on my phone. And then different, I don't know. That's a tough one. We're pretty similar in a lot of ways. I'm a way better Smash Bros. Player than him.
Oh,
Nintendo.
No, that's not even close. No,
Yeah.
not even remotely close.
Ability to mash buttons, I guess. I don't know. I think my siblings would have a better answer for that than I would. We're pretty similar in a lot of things.
Maybe where you think you guys are most similar and most different.
Yeah, the phone thing is it's definitely similarities there. I think Josh's ability to gather and hold information, like if you need something found out, if you need to figure something out, he is so good at that. I do call him and be like, "Hey, what's going on with so-and-so?" And it's like instant, and his passion of knowing information is really, I guess we're kind of similar in that way, but he is so much better at it. I think at understanding the world that we live in now of Twitter and everything, where I get it, but I don't get it like he does. And maybe that's probably
I don't know. We're pretty similar in that.
All right, last question for you. I'm like I said, I'm a father too. All we do in life is hope to see our kids do well. And you've got lots of successful children, but to see Josh is about to play his first playoff game. I know how you felt when you played your first playoff game. What's it going to be like to see that?
it's it's the whole reason you play. Like, from when you're a kid to forever, the reason you play is to play for the Stanley Cup. Like, that's what you do, is you play for a chance to play in the playoffs. And it's hard to understand and explain it to people when, like, it's that passion that you've had from the very beginning, and for him to get to experience it. Him and I've talked a little bit about it, how amazing it is. The playoffs it's so much fun, and I can't wait to watch. And it's amazing. You want I read a quote, your dad is the only man that you come across that wants you to do better than him in life. And nothing would make me happier. I mean, watching Keith with Maddie celebrate with the Stanley Cup has been pretty cool. And it's a pretty amazing thing to see your boys get a chance to do something that I'd love to watch him do. And I can't wait. I can't wait.
Josh, the day that comes, imagine maybe around that Sabre logo, the Doan family, Shane, Andrea, your siblings, Uncle Dan, whoever else is invited, like to stand on the ice with it. Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I think sounds stupid. I was that same brick tournament, our team, because the Kings won the Stanley Cup that year, celebrated with we got to go in and see it. And I refused to go into the room and celebrate with the Stanley Cup unless it was with him. And that was part of me being a stubborn 10-year-old that was upset that my dad lost. But I think that was also like seeing how much he cared and how much he put into his career was something really cool and part of why I'm where I am now. So it would be something where I think he would be, obviously, I think it'd be the two of us first would be really cool, and then bring the rest of them in after. I think it'll be hard to keep my siblings away. They're pretty passionate too. Gracie in particular would be upset with me, I think, because she's been a huge supporter of mine since I was little. But yeah, it's something that as a kid, it was him and I, and that's how I kind of pictured it as growing up, is if I'm going to do it, I'm doing it with him. And that's kind of the thought process.
Do you guys still skate together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Depends on if we're on the same team or not. I think it's a huge. We'll skate in the summertime at ASU. I'll bring him out because they can have coaches, so he'll run me and a couple guys out, and the two of us. If we don't have, or if we have an odd number of guys, he plays. It's the only way he'll play with that group. And then usually we'll try to get on the same team, and it's pretty fun. I think we think the game pretty similarly, so it's fun to play with them. And then against each other, it's another level of. I've said it where I got asked earlier this year about battling with him, and he's still pretty strong in the corners around the net. So I try to expand the zone as much as possible versus him now. But he's still. I mean, I still think he's got it. He's somewhere in there deep down. He's still got it. Depends on if he wants to shoot or not.
Yeah. It's so fun to watch him play and to see the skill level of all the players now. I was watching the game when they played Anaheim just recently, and Mike Smith was texting with me, and he was chirping me. There's no chance I would have scored that. I probably would have missed the net, hard rimmed it around on the ice for 2-on-1 the other way. Is I think the exact quote that he said. But to watch their skill level is amazing, and their game, and it's fun to be on the ice and play together and have fun playing together. But man, what they can do now, what they do with the puck is just, it's stuff you didn't even think about. Like, you didn't even comprehend that would even be an option, and you'd be ridiculed if you did.
Do you remember the first time Josh outmuscled you for a puck?
Yeah. I remember the first time that I went to lift his stick and I didn't, and it didn't, like, I'd kind of give it a pop and steal it. And I was, I think he's got a little heavier stick now but he uses his stick he knocks things down and steals it more out of quickness than just strength, which really bugs me when he does it to me. It's more when he steals it from me that bugs me. I don't really get to steal it from him, but he steals it from me all the time. So, yeah.
Our thanks to Josh and Shane and the Buffalo Sabres for making that conversation happen. 2 games on tap tonight in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, including right here in Buffalo, Game 2, the Sabres and the Canadiens. Hockey Central, the pregame show, gets you set at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific time. The game a little after 7 ET from Western New York. That will be followed by game number 3 of Anaheim and Vegas from the Honda Center. Should be a great environment there at 9:30 Eastern time. It will begin on Sportsnet 360 and move to the Sportsnet main channels once the Sabres and the Canadiens are all wrapped up. Taking us out today, a track from Marzia, who's an R&B singer born in General Santos, Philippines, and raised in Surrey, BC. Her soulful vocals and vulnerable songwriting have quickly established her as one of Canada's rising voices in contemporary R&B and soul, earning chart success, critical recognition, and institutional validation for her artistry. Her sound, which she describes as laid-back, emotional, and rooted in soulful live instrumentation, feels like dim lights on a rainy night, slow drives through empty streets, and quiet moments of self-reflection. A proud Filipino-Canadian artist, Marzia brings over a decade of dedication to her craft, representing an underserved community with authenticity and grace. This song, along with all the others we featured this season, as you know, can be found on the 32 Thoughts the Music playlist on Spotify. Here is Marzia and Ordinary on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Have yourselves a great weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday.
Lately, I've been feeling so low, thinking that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I've been stuck here running round in circles. Am I gonna make it? Will these dreams come true? You see, I've never been the type to be open and speak through my mind. Will the day come by? Nonsense, like am I this or am I that? Who's it for? Am I getting there? Lately I've been feeling so low, thinking that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I've been stuck here running round in circles. Am I gonna make it? Will these dreams come true? Lately I've been feeling so low, thinking that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. See, I've been feeling maybe that I'm not gonna make it. That these dreams were made for someone else. I'll give it credit, my life, but when I lay with my mind, I can't sleep at night. So many days I filled with the ground, like I'm not moving forward like they do. No, no, that I could just be the reflection I am in my head, but it's not coming true, it's not becoming real, and reality is catching up to me. Lately I've been feeling so low, thinking that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I've been stuck here running round in circles. Am I gonna make it? Will these dreams come true? Am I just an ordinary girl? 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 So I'll give it to God. Yeah, I'll give it to God. My life's in His hands.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time Guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.